Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey watching Colt and Larissa on 90 Day Fiancé. Let's get to the show. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Let's see if anything of interest comes out of my mouth as I watch the show.
I think she's a tiny bit disappointed.
Yeah?
Yes.
No.
A little bit. But there's a beautiful house. So.
Have it the sofa?
There's no sofa. Because I wanted to wait until you got here, and now guess what? You can pick one out
Yes.
with her, or me, or all of us. I love it.
I'm so happy for you guys.
I love you, Mom.
Okay, interesting moment. The mom is crying, apparently tears of joy. I wonder if she has more complicated feelings of grief that she is finally going to have an empty nest.
I'm glad you're finally here to pray.
It did take a long time.
I think that her and Colt could have a good relationship. I want him to be happy.
That's sweet.
Yeah, that's great. It's just nice to see people being open and optimistic, even when there are red flags. But the mom is like, it seems like things are going to work out, and, let's see what happens. So it's good.
I hope you like it. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't like the house because it's small. No furniture in the living room. And it's ugly decoration.
What do you think of the house?
I like the house, but I think that if we move to a new house with a pool, more biggie.
Yeesh. What? She's saying, yeah, I like your house, but, I think we should move to a bigger house, one with a pool, one that's nicer, as if they can just do that. You realize there's mortgages and money involved, and I'm trying to figure her out. Is she that ignorant that she believes that this, family can just pick up and move to another house that's bigger and has a pool? Or is she entitled? I'm really just trying to figure out what's going on with her. She seems like a nice enough person.
Look, we're not even one day in.
We can put the sound machine in my
In 3
bedroom.
hours, I hate Las Vegas and I would like to move to other planet. But I can't, so I would like to move to other house.
I don't know what you want me to do. You don't like Las Vegas.
for other houses.
You don't like the
The
heat.
3 months in the-
You don't like
in
the
the-
house. You don't like anything. So I'm like, okay. What do you want me to do?
I like you, it's enough.
Oh, I like you too, baby.
And mommy.
Oh.
I've left everything so you can decorate any way you want it because I wanted just to make you feel like it was your house.
Okay, so we saw that Larissa detected, oh, I'm hurting their feelings, and so I'll say, well, I like you and I like mommy, and so that showed that she can predict or know what's going on in their hearts and their minds, and she reacted well to that. Because I was wondering, does she not have empathy because she's just crapping all over the town and the house and the fact that they don't have a pool and everything about it?
So the slot machine, no. Who gave it to you, the slot machine?
My dad bought it for her.
Oh. I'm sorry. No, it's okay.
So she seems to have empathy in that situation as well. But, it's just a little tip for all y'all out there. And a reminder to myself, honestly, because I can see myself putting my foot in my mouth similarly, is when you go into someone's house, tread lightly, because you just don't really know what emotional valences people have to particular objects. As an Asian American, I can attest to this when it comes to food. So I grew up Japanese American. I'm still Japanese American. And my diet was primarily Japanese American growing up. And there's a lot of rice, there's Spam, there's kimchi. Kimchi is Korean, but a lot of Japanese Americans eat it. There's obviously sushi. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, sushi was considered disgusting and a biohazard by most Americans. Seaweed and, pickled weird things. And I have experienced a lot of people as they watch what I eat or they hear about what I'm eating and they'll just, gross, is this Spam is gross. And it's like, okay, you realize that's my soul food. That's my culture. It's okay that you don't like it. I don't recommend Spam to anyone, but to grow up with Spam, and now my mouth is watering because I'm thinking about Spam musubi, but to grow up with these kinds of foods it's very integral to my pride as a Japanese American. Now, to be clear, Japanese people don't like Spam, from what I understand. It's a Japanese American thing, and the reason why Japanese Americans like it, from what I've been told, is because we were imprisoned by the American government as citizens. I have people in my family who, as citizens of the United States, born in the United States, born in Washington State, were imprisoned during World War II because their ancestors came from a country that we were at war with, which was completely unconstitutional, illegal, immoral, stupid, all sorts of things. As a result, the camps, there was not much to cook with. You just had to use what you could. And from what I've heard, this might be apocryphal, is that they gave rations, army rations, to the Japanese Americans to eat. Spam was one of those things. The Spam originally was an army ration. And the Japanese Americans used it in their cuisine and figured out how to make the most of it, even though they're being imprisoned and giving crappy army rations to eat. And so for me, it's not only just soul food and part of my childhood and part of my Japanese American identity, but also it's a symbol of the ingenuity and the suffering that my people went through. So you just have to be careful when you're talking about other people's things, because you just have no idea what is going to be sensitive to them. And for Larissa, she's like, I don't like that, that slot machine. It's stupid. And then they're like, well, actually, my deceased father, her deceased husband, gave it to us. So thanks for that. You just have to be careful. Now, in the comments below, I'm curious, because I do read the comments, what are your things that people make fun of you for that are sensitive to you? Food, things in your house, the way you dress, the way you talk, this kind of thing. Because maybe we can all learn from each other.
It's cute. It's a toy. It's nice. Let's take your things upstairs.
I wanted it to go really good, and it's not. I thought it would be easier.
Okay, this is interesting. So the mom is giving, I'm always looking at what sort of vibe age-wise is someone giving off. And the mom right now is giving off a vibe of really someone quite young. We all do this when we go through a stressful situation. We tend to regress. And what age do we land on usually when we're in particular stressful situations? I think what the mom is going through, at least the way she's communicating, is she feels that she is disapproved of. She might even feel like she's a failure. There's something wrong with her. That's the vibe I'm getting from her. And she's regressing to the age of like a 10-year-old or even younger, just defeated, and I'm a loser. I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know who to turn to. I don't have a inner voice to reassure me in this moment that, look, one, it's not my fault that my son's fiancé is insensitive and picky and doesn't understand mortgages. That's not my fault. And two, it's just the beginning, and we'll get it. We seem to like each other, and that's a good start. She doesn't like my slot machine. She doesn't want my food. She doesn't like the town. She doesn't like the house. But she seems to like me, and so, it's a good start. She doesn't seem to have those resources inside of her, and that usually is an indication that one, as a child, was treated poorly and not given enough reason to believe in oneself, and maybe given a lot of reasons to believe that there's something deeply wrong with you. And when something goes wrong in your life, you plummet. Some of you have this. Some of you have actually emailed me or commented below around this. It's a schema of defectiveness or a schema of failure. So there are two main schemas that she might be presenting, which I'd have to ask her about. But the general tagline for these schemas are, there's something deeply wrong with me, or I am flawed deep down, or if people really knew me, they would understand that I'm a bad person or I'm stupid or something. So that's a defective schema. And then the other schema that she seems to be presenting, I wouldn't know, total speculation, that is I'm a failure. I always fail at things. I never get anything right. Everything I do is wrong. So there's a failure schema and a defective schema. So I feel bad for her. She shouldn't feel bad. Me watching, I'm like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Larissa's picky. There's nothing wrong with that. Larissa has her own, way of dealing with things. And certainly you haven't done anything wrong. And you have reasons to be a little miffed and angry about this ingrate that has moved into your house. I'm being facetious, but anyway. So I feel bad for the mom. Let's continue watching.
I don't think she likes anything about anything.
There you go, madam. The initial encounter between my mother and Larissa didn't go as well as I had hoped. And we have to work together and learn how to live together. I love her and I want to be with her. So I think we just need more patience and time.
All right, so the plot thickens. We are seeing the beginnings of a triangulation. If you've heard me talk about this before, just briefly, when you have a conflict between two people, there's a tendency for human beings to triangulate a third element into that conflict or tension. And there's a conflict, there's several conflicts that are happening right now. There's Larissa and the mom, and Colt is triangulated in. There's also a conflict between Colt and Larissa, and the mom is triangulated in. There's also potentially you could frame it this way, a conflict between, or tension between Colt and Larissa, because they don't really know each other very well, and they're not quite sure how they're going to be together. So there's tension and anxiety, and they're triangulating the house and the slot machine and the city of Las Vegas, or at least Larissa is. So the idea goes is that as you are experiencing tension with someone, there's a tendency for us to want to avoid that tension, especially when we don't have a solution for it. When we have a solution to a conflict or tension between us and another person, then we tend to go for that solution. We don't tend to triangulate. So that's why the more differentiated you are, the more mature, the more healed you are from your past traumas, the more optimistic and the more things you have available to you, and the less triggered you are in a situation such that you can actually work out a conflict head on with someone else. So with Larissa and Colt, it would look like something where Colt says, you know what, you're kind of hurting my feelings. I get that you don't like the house and you don't like Las Vegas. That's completely fine. But you're kind of hurting my feelings. And so, could you tone it down a little bit? Could you try to could we maybe wait to have these conversations about moving a little later? Also from Larissa, she could be like, you know what, I love you and I like you. I'm just really kind of shocked with what I'm seeing in Las Vegas in the United States and in this house. My dog is barking at the mail carrier, I think. But you know what? It could just be the overwhelming nature of moving to another country that I'm going to live in for the rest of my life. And I just don't know what to do with that energy. And so I'm just criticizing everything around me. I don't know. I'm really sorry. That's head on. That's directly talking to each other. Or maybe Larissa is still upset about not getting flowers. She wants more romance. And she's like, you know what? The reason why I'm trashing on the house and the town, I think, is because I feel that you neglected me. You just picked me up at the airport like it's no big deal. I mean, we're starting the rest of our lives together. I want you to be more romantic. That's a big deal to me. That's one of my love languages, if you will. So that would be head on. If you don't have optimism or a way to work that out or trust in the other person, or you're too flooded with emotion, then you want to triangulate another thing. And so for Larissa, she might be like, well, I can't deal with him directly, so I'm going to blame the flowers, or I'm going to blame the city, or I'm going to blame the house, or I'm going to blame the slot machine. And now the conflict between the mom and Larissa, it makes sense that that conflict might be really hard for the two of them. That for the mom, she doesn't know Larissa well enough to actually trust that she can actually have hey, you know what, Larissa, I want you to be comfortable, but you know what? You hurt my feelings. You didn't want my food. You didn't like my house. You want us to move. You didn't like my late husband's slot machine. And, I want you to be comfortable, but I just want to say like it, hurt my feelings. That would be direct, communication. That would give an opportunity for the two people to work it out. But it's understandable that the mom doesn't really know Larissa that well, and so the mom will probably triangulate Colt in some way. You could almost say the mom was almost triangulating us as viewers because she was telling the cameras and the producers and us how she felt about Larissa without telling Larissa directly. I don't know. Maybe we'll see that they'll be able to work this out directly in a differentiated manner. But so far, there's triangulation. Now, triangulation isn't inherently horrible. The issue is what's the eventual outcome? What we would hope is that the conflict between Larissa and mom is such that they actually work things out and understand each other and take care of each other and thus learn lessons from that interaction so that they can not hurt each other in the future and that they can strengthen their relationship. That would be an outcome. And sometimes triangulation can actually facilitate that. That's why I differentiate between dysfunctional triangulation and functional. So if Colt gets triangulated into that conflict and Colt actually helps them to communicate more directly, then that's a functional triangle. Therapists are always triangulated into their clients' lives. If a couple comes into my office, I'm triangulated in. If an individual comes into my office and talks about their spouse, I'm triangulated in. So my hope is that I can be a functional third triangle element so that the people can actually work it out and even graduate to another level of more optimal functioning so that they don't need me in the future, that kind of thing. A dysfunctional triangle is when you triangulate a third element and it either keeps the conflict at that level or it actually makes it worse. So let's watch what happens.
I had high hopes for the first meeting between Larissa and my mother, and ultimately it was terrible. It was a disaster, you could say. She was very blunt to my mother, and I'm a little disappointed and maybe a little bit hurt that she isn't more positive or more patient or open, especially on the first day.
Now, we might be seeing some of the reasons as to why Colt still lives at home. In that and I don't want to pathologize adults still living with their parents. It's not a pathology. Americans tend to pathologize it, but it's not a pathology. There's nothing wrong with it. There are different ways to live life, and for some, they want to live with their parents, and for some, they don't. So we just don't want to pathologize it. But we might be seeing a reason as to why Colt hasn't been rushing to move out of his parents' house, out of his mom's house, because the mom seems to be, very fragile emotionally. She seems to have some traumas, total speculation, and Colt seems like a very caring guy and cares about mom and really wants mom to not have those episodes where she falls into despair. So maybe we'll see more of that as we move forward.
How's it going?
She's not happy.
Yeah, she's really happy, but she'll be fine. She had a long flight.
I know.
She's very tired. She's in a different country she's never been in. She's just tired, okay?
Okay. I expected Larissa to be the sweet, wonderful person that Colt told me so much about. And when she gets here, she's just not the same person. She's not at all what I expected.
All right, so we saw that Colt is triangulated in, and he is doing his best to be the intermediary and tell the mom, look, it's a long flight, everything will be fine, we'll get through this. And the mom has an opportunity to react to that. Now, what did we see as a result of that triangulation? Well, the mom walks away in that interview with resentment and anger, seemingly. Conclusions about Larissa that she's not a sweet person, she's not a nice person, she's a bad person. So the triangulation, the way it turned out, is not seemingly going very well. What I would maybe do if I were a therapist in this house, which would be weird for me to do, but I have done in-home therapy before. Actually, there was a whole span of time, about 10 years, where I did a lot of in-home therapy. It's very interesting. But anyway, I would go to Larissa and I would say, so I think we should have a talk with the mom. I think there's some issues here. And I would actually have Colt not in the room because there would be a temptation for Colt to triangulate. And plus, I would just want to see how Larissa and the mom would do together. And I would just get a conversation going. And from what I have seen, I think Larissa has a heart, and I think she does care. I think she has some issues getting to that empathy and getting to that compassion. But I think she has the ability to care about other people, and I think she also has the ability to guess what other people are going through. And I don't think she wants the mom to feel this way. And so based on that assumption that people are mostly good, I think I would be able to help Larissa apologize to the mom, have them connect, so that the mom doesn't walk away with a narrative that Larissa is a bad person. So if this triangle continues to exist as it is right now, I worry that the mom will increase her idea and her narrative of Larissa as a bad person. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Thanks for joining me out there. Please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.